me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive preseason finale, week number 3 recap. And I must say, I was pleasantly surprised by how many teams elected to throw their starters out there. And I think there's becoming this school of thought by NFL teams that I don't necessarily need to play my guys in the first 2 preseason games, but that last one, I probably should get them some work just so they haven't been on the sidelines, sitting there for over or close to a month without any actual competition, real active competition. Which, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I am on the other school of thought, whereas I'm going to play my guys in weeks 1 and 2, and I'm not going to put them on the field. And I don't give a shit about the 3-week gap between the last preseason game and the first regular season game, because I want my guys to have enough time. So if an ankle injury or something like that, that's minor, but could keep my guy out for a week if it's too close to the season, I want him to have as much time as possible to heal from an ankle injury or something that may have happened in that second preseason game, which would give you every bit of 3 weeks, close to a month to heal and go through the process of being ready for week 1. Whereas if you get hurt in that third preseason game, it's like a bye week, essentially. You're off a week, and then you come back, and now you're planning for week 1, and that might not be enough time for an ankle sprain, right? So I side on the other, end of this conversation, which is, hey, first 2 weeks of the preseason, I'm going to get my guys out there. 1 possession in week 1, maybe a quarter, maybe 2 possessions, a quarter, whatever in week 1, and then maybe 3-4 possessions, a half, depending on how much work we need in week 2. I'm good in week 3. That's what the Chiefs did. That's what, my Commanders did. And that's kind of how I would attack the preseason. But to my surprise, 11 of the 16 games featured at least 1 starting quarterback with the starting first team offense on the field, which I didn't expect. So, and it could be 12, depending on what the Arizona Cardinals do now that they've cut Colt McCoy. Clayton Tune played in that game against the Browns or against the Vikings, rather. I didn't watch any of that game because I didn't know they were going to cut Colt McCoy, but Clayton Tune could be starting. It may be Joshua Dobbs. My money's on Joshua Dobbs coming in and starting, but 3 weeks to just prepare to be ready for week 1. If you're Joshua Dobbs, that's crazy to me, but we'll see what ultimately happens. I don't know what the hell the Arizona Cardinals are doing. I could say that, but doesn't make me any difference. I'm not an Arizona Cardinals fan. So by all means, knock yourself out. But let's go through the docket of games, man, because I actually was thoroughly entertained by the action in week 3 of the preseason because so many teams played their starters. As I mentioned, I did not expect this. So let's start in Atlanta. Falcons hosting the Steelers. To me, the most impressive team all preseason, and I know this means absolutely nothing. I'm totally aware. I get it. But the team that's been the most impressive in the preseason has been the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if we're even being more specific, Kenny Pickett in that Steelers offense, they have been on fire, in fuego. They hit the field, they take care of business, they score, and it's not like dinking and dunking. It's not like what we saw with Justin Fields in week 1 of the preseason where you get a broken play and he finds a guy in the flats and there's a breakdown in the defense and your running back runs for 67 yards for a touchdown with nobody in sight. Or, Justin Fields throwing a screen pass to DJ Moore and him just kind of murking and nobody touching him, right? It's not that. Like Kenny Pickett on a 3rd and 5 reared back and threw a 37-yard dime down the sideline in between 2 defenders to Deontay Johnson. Like, that's the kind of shit that they're on right now. That opening possession probably went every bit of 85 yards. And Kenny Pickett was, I think, 4 of 4 for probably like 60-something, 70-something yards. There were a couple of nice Najee Harris runs in there to punctuate the drive, including the touchdown run from, I think, 1 yard out. He also had another dime to Kenny Pickett down the sideline. This is a hell of a catch by, stop me if you've heard that before, by George Pickens down the sideline to get his feet in, almost scored, and Najee Harris did the rest. Kenny Pickett is locked in right now. I get it. It's backups. Things will be much different when you're game planning, and we'll see how he handles everything. But right now, they've got weapons. He's playing well, and they could be a problem. And you already know how I feel about the Steelers this year. I said that they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a surprise team this year. They went out and went right down the field and then got Kenny out of there after that opening drive touchdown. I think they've scored on every single touchdown, every single drive Kenny Pickett has been in the game. They've scored a touchdown on this preseason. It's been that efficient. They've been machine-like in their efficiency this year in the preseason. We'll see if it carries over to the regular season. They got the 49ers. That'll be a great test week 1. But, man, do the Steelers look good or what? They blanked the Falcons 24-0 in the preseason finale. Colts at Eagles. The Eagles have passed on the preseason. We know this to be a fact. But the Colts, who didn't play their top 5 pick, number 4 overall draft pick in week 2 of the preseason, which, again, I don't understand what the logic is there, but they played him in week 1, decided to play him in week 3. They already named him the starter in Anthony Richardson. And so I don't know why they didn't play him last week. CJ Stroud played all 3 weeks. Bryce Young played all 3 weeks. If he's your starter, he should be getting all the reps. Jordan Love played all 3 weeks. I'm just trying to figure out the psychological sense behind not playing him in preseason game 2, but then coming back and playing him in preseason game number 3. Anyway, enough of that. They played him in preseason game number 3. He showed a lot of the talent that we know exists, but there are going to be some bumps in the road. Obviously, he was one of those guys you looked at and said he's probably not going to be ready week 1, where they're expediting the process. Hell, the best way for you to learn is to play. I agree with that to a certain extent. You can't hurt a player by putting him out there too early and having him experience nothing but pain and misery and suffering, and that can, wear on his confidence. It's a little bit different when you have an athlete like Anthony Richardson, because you're going to bake in runs. You're going to do things to keep him successful that are going to give him a chance to really hurt defenses and give him some easy throws because of his ability to use his legs. So it's going to make his transition a little bit easier than a traditional pocket passer who has to just figure it out. But nonetheless, he was okay. The numbers weren't great. If you watched it, he was erratic. There were some throws in there. You go, whoa. He's still putting too much sauce on a lot of these passes where you go, bro, chill. He's 5 yards in front of you. I don't need a 98-mile-an-hour fastball for that, right? But you can see some of the things that they like in him, and you can see that there's definitely a future with him at the quarterback position. I still don't love what they have around him necessarily. It's a bunch of odd parts, but that's what the Colts do. They never have a star. Ever since Peyton Manning departed, even when Andrew Luck was there, they didn't have stars. The closest they had was Reggie Wayne, and Reginald Wayne was on his last legs. Like, I can't tell you any of these dudes they have out there. Like, Colin Granson might be like their best, skill position player. He's a tight end. I don't know. I'm making up stuff because Pittman is somewhat inconsistent to me. Alec Pierce is cool, but he's still yet to really prove himself. I don't really know about them. I know they drafted Josh Downs. We'll see if he can add anything, but he's going to be a problem with his legs. They don't have a running back, I don't think, right now, unless I'm missing somebody. And Jonathan Taylor, I don't think is going to be traded, so he'll be back. But there's not a lot there around him. This is not a conducive environment to be successful. I'll just say that. But nonetheless, he led them on a couple of touchdown drives, and so you just feel good about that. Solid performance up and down. I think he was 7 of 16 passing. So again, long way to go there. But I thought he did do some really good things at times. They win the game 27-13 over the Eagles. That was Thursday action. So now we get to the Friday games. Lions at Panthers. And this is all about Bryce Young. So Bryce Young, Lions passed on the preseason for whatever reason. We didn't see Jared Goff a single time. And again, he's a veteran. I get that. They're in the same offense, so they probably don't need the work as much as some of these other teams. But I'm still looking at them like, hey, you do know that it's Jared Goff, right? And there's still some pieces moving around on that offense. And you do know you could have used a game, right? Just one. But, okay, cool. You on Thursday Night Football, by the way, against the Chiefs to kick the season off. I hope you're ready. And maybe they will be. We'll see. Anyway, Bryce Young went out there, and I just felt like I liked the fact that him and CJ Stroud played all 3 of the preseason games, and you saw steady growth and progression each and every single week. And as a Texans fan, as a Panthers fan, that has to bring a big smile and a nice warm feeling to your heart, because it gives you hope that these guys aren't going to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, and they're going to continue to progress and get better as the season wears on. So week 1 of the preseason, I thought both of these guys struggled. The offensive line in particular in Carolina was really, really bad in that first preseason game. He really never had a shot. CJ Stroud thought his offensive line was horrendous in that first preseason game against New England. He struggled a bit. And then week 2, I thought both of them looked much better, much sharper. They didn't look like they were overwhelmed by the NFL game. And in week 3, they both throw their first touchdown passes. They both looked like they had command of the offense. They both looked comfortable. I will say CJ Stroud, we're not talking about the Texans. We'll get there when we talk about them. Bryce Young has always looked cool, calm, and composed this preseason, but he's also taken some sacks. He's also had some throws that he probably would like back. I thought in this particular game, he looked like he was back at Alabama. There's one bootleg where he comes out of the boot and he turns around and there's a defender right there waiting on him. And he puts on the brakes, jumps in the air, lets that guy fly by, cuts inside of him, and takes off. And you just go, look at Bryce out here making things happen. There was another situation where he rolls out, there's a defender, makes him miss, gets up the field. So he was using his legs, had another nice run on the 3rd down, slid down without contact, got the 1st down, and then he hits Adam Thielen for the touchdown. I thought that ball was slightly behind Thielen, could have been out in front of him a little bit more, but I'm splitting hairs here. I'm nitpicking. It was a really good performance. You feel really good about Bryce Young and what he was able to do, and I think they're feeling really good about where they're trending and where they're heading in Carolina as they fall to the Lions in the preseason finale, 26-17. Chargers at the 49ers. Chargers, as we know, they routinely pass on the preseason. But the 49ers played Brock Purdy for the 2nd consecutive week. So he did not play in preseason game number 1 against the Raiders, but he has played each of the last 2 weeks. And he's getting more and more comfortable. I thought he looked good in this game. Used his legs, ended up having a rushing touchdown on his final possession in the game. And they had another touchdown drive, and the running back literally fumbled going in for the score. Mason is his name. But outside of that, it was 2 flawless drives for the 49ers. Purdy led both of them, and he looks good, man. It's going to be interesting to see how good the 49ers are this year. They've made their decision on Trey Lance, obviously trading him to the Cowboys. I've got a lot to say on that subject matter. We'll discuss that on the podcast tomorrow. But Brock Purdy looked good. You know, he came out, did what he needed to do. Sam Darnold is their backup quarterback, and they're not going to look back. They got their guy, and they're moving forward with it. And right now it looks good. He looks to be back to being what he was last year. The legs work, obviously, and we'll see how this line protects him, and we'll see some of the skill position guys that they have. But Brock Purdy looked good. He looked good against the Chargers. Chargers get the victory 23-12, but Brock Purdy looked really good for the 2nd straight start in the preseason. You get to Saturday action, Bills-Bears. Again, Fields didn't play in the 2nd week of the preseason, did play in the first, only threw 3 passes. 2 of them were big touchdowns, but again, he didn't do much. I continue to walk away saying I still don't really know what to expect from Justin Fields. I don't really like what I'm seeing from him as a passer yet. I still think his legs are his biggest attribute at this current juncture. I know that DJ Moore is going to be a weapon, and he had a nice catch and run in this game. But right now, I'm still looking at Justin Fields, and I got as many questions as I do answers in terms of him as a passer. I still don't trust him as a passer. Like, if you're in a fantasy league, DJ Moore is a safe guy, is a safe bet for a PPR league in terms of he's going to probably have a high volume of targets. But as far as him having a ton of production, I'm not sure. Not with Justin Fields throwing the football. I'm not sure about that. Just be careful. So I thought it was an up and down performance for Fields. But at the end of the day, he's an athlete. He's going to make things happen. He did that in this game. You know, and his arm, it works. You know, there are going to be some throws that he's going to make, and you're going to go, okay, that was pretty gnarly. But at the end of the day, I still don't trust him. The Bills played Josh Allen for the second straight game after not playing in preseason game number 1. And they didn't look all that hot in preseason game 2. You know, Allen looked good, but the offense as a whole didn't look all that great. And the defense definitely didn't look good. So they ran it back in the third preseason game. They looked a lot better from an offensive standpoint. Diggs looks to be in midseason form. He hooked up with Gabe Davis, and Allen was running around. He threw across his body on one play where you just go, what in the Josh Allen is that? But only a handful of dudes in the league can pull that off. So Allen was in midseason form. They're going to be just fine in Buffalo. There's questions about their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, and how they're going to utilize the running backs and things of that nature. They're going to be just fine in Buffalo because they got 17. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. He looked good, and that offense is going to be just fine. Browns and Chiefs, and the Bills won that game 24-21 for anybody keeping score at home. Browns and Chiefs, the Browns lose to the Chiefs 33-32. This game, though, was dominated by the Browns early on because the Chiefs didn't play their starters and the Browns did. So Deshaun Watson and some of the defensive starters played in week 1 of the preseason versus the Commanders. They did not play in week 2 versus the Eagles, but now they decided to have those guys on the field in week 3 of the preseason against the Chiefs. Watson came out. I thought this was as sharp a performance as I've seen from Watson since he's returned from the suspension. This is the first time I thought he actually looked comfortable. Now, there were 2 fumbles in terms of exchanges between him and the running back, but I don't know if those were on him altogether. And obviously, he's not going to be in there with Watson when the time comes. It'll be a lot of Nick Chubb and things of that nature. But there were a couple of fumbles that hit the ground. Watson was not happy, obviously, over that. But I thought throwing the football, I thought mobility, escaping the pocket, throwing on the move. I thought this was as clean a performance. It reminded me of why they went out and traded all that they did and paid him all the money that they're going to pay him. He reminded me of why they did that, right? Like, I needed a reminder because he didn't look, and I knew that was going to be the case. He hadn't played football in damn near 2 years. I knew he was going to look, a little rusty, and it was going to look weird, and I was going to question. And I had to tell myself, bro, give him another offseason where he's actually at the team facility, that he's actually going through OTAs, he's getting comfortable with his teammates. Give him another, opportunity to really do this the right way, and then you can judge him. He looked good. Amari Cooper and company, Donovan Peoples-Jones, all of them were out there. This offense looked so much better than it had with all those guys being out of the lineup. So I thought they moved the ball well. One of the Chiefs' old friends, Juan Thornhill, picked off the Chiefs' backup quarterback, Shane Buechele, and ran it back for a touchdown. So the Browns did some good things, and I thought Watson looked extremely sharp in this game, the best I've seen him in a Browns uniform to date. So that's good news if you're a Browns fan. We'll see if that carries over to week 1 of the regular season or not. Packers hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks passed on the preseason as they normally do. Packers, however, played Jordan Love in all 3 preseason games to continue to give him work in that offense. They win the game 19-15. Jordan Love, for the 3rd consecutive game, led the Packers on a touchdown drive. This time, I think he ended up who did he connect with in this game? I got to look and see. I forgot if they ran it in or if he threw a beautiful back shoulder fade. That's what it was. A beautiful back shoulder fade to Christian Watson for the touchdown. But it took him a while. I think it took him maybe 3 drives to make that happen, 3 or 4 drives. He was out there for a little while, but he led them on 2 scoring drives, a field goal and a touchdown. And I've been impressed with Jordan Love. It hasn't always been pretty, hasn't always been the cleanest, and these are the bumps that you expect in the road with a quarterback that only has 1 NFL start to his name. However, I've been impressed with his resiliency. The athleticism is everything I thought it was coming out of Utah State. The arm talent is definitely there. I think the ball placement can be a little bit better at times. I think the decision-making has been really solid. He hasn't really put the ball in harm's way too often, maybe once or twice, but, nothing out of the ordinary for a young quarterback trying to figure it out in the league on the fly. I thought he's done a really good job of commanding the offense. What they have, used, and obviously we'll see a lot more once the regular season and the game planning kicks in. But I've been really impressed with Jordan Love. Like, don't count out the Green Bay Packers. I know it's easy to write them off because there's no more Aaron Rodgers. Don't write off the Green Bay Packers. A lot of youngins out there, man. All their receivers and tight ends are pretty much young. It's like the blind leading the blind, so to speak. But if Jordan Love can tie it all together with solid quarterback play, they could be a dangerous team in a wide open NFC North. Nobody really actually knows what the hell's going on in that division as we speak. Everybody trying to crown the Bears as this young upstart team with Justin Fields. Everybody loves the Lions. They're a chic pick to not just make the playoffs, but do damage when they get there. Everybody's forgetting about the Vikings because they had an exodus of veteran players off their roster last year. And everybody's just counting out the Packers because there's no more Aaron Rodgers. So that division is wide open. We'll see what happens. I like what I've seen from Jordan Love. I get it. It's the preseason. I am fully aware, but I also know that he's looked good in these 3 preseason games. Jets at the Giants. So crosstown rivals doing battle here, sharing the stadium. Jets get the win 32-24. These 2 teams will meet in the regular season as the AFC East and NFC East play each other this season. The Giants will be the home team in that game. But in this particular game, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets' first team defense as well both saw their first action of the preseason. Rodgers and the Jets offense, not a great start on the first possession. Rodgers was pressured a little bit and had to throw it away on the 3rd down. But they got back on the field on that second possession, and they marched it right down the field, and Rodgers threw a beautiful pass to Garrett Wilson for the score. So Rodgers' night was done after that. The defense, looked good against the Giants backups, did what they were supposed to do, got off the field in short order, and took care of business early on in the game. So we got our first look at the Jets and their offense. They spread it around a little bit. They ran some boot action, and Rodgers was able to kind of change the address a bit, hit the tight end a couple of times, also hit Mecole Hardman on one play, obviously connected with Garrett Wilson on a number of plays, including the touchdown pass. So they're going to be a dynamic offense. They're going to be a dynamic offense. That is for sure. Ravens and Bucks. Wouldn't it go figure, right? The Ravens finally lose a preseason game, the first in 25 tries, and then they go and they lose again right after that, right? Of course. Now they don't care, right? They really don't care now. 26-20, the Bucks get the victory. They've already announced their starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and he went out and he looked like the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had a nice drive right down the field. They finally gave him somebody to throw the ball to. He still didn't have Mike Evans out there with him, but he had Cade Otton, the starting tight end, and most notably, he had his starting wide receiver, Chris Godwin, out there, who looked like a man amongst boys with those Ravens backups. He went out there, went to work, caught the touchdown pass, and that was it for Baker Mayfield. So Baker made it look easy. They went out there, did what they had to do, scored the touchdown, and then Kyle Trask came into the game. So, everybody's dismissing Tampa Bay, including me. I'm guilty as well. Guilty as charged. We're dismissing Tampa Bay. The Saints are the team to beat in that division until otherwise notified. I've been saying look out for the Packers. Well, not so fast. Don't forget about Tampa Bay and Atlanta. We don't know what the Falcons have up their sleeve. I'm like, Arthur Smith is either a mad scientist and a genius over there, or he's a dumbass and he's about to get fired. We're going to find out together, right? Because I don't think they played their quarterback, Desmond Ridder, nearly enough in the preseason. I don't think they played their first team offense nearly enough. And the media asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, we're fine over here. We'll be ready for week 1. Don't you worry. We'll be ready for Carolina week 1." I believe him. We'll see. But I feel like the Buccaneers are right in the mix in that division. If they get and I think with Baker Mayfield, it's just weird with him because it's like every other year you get good Baker. Year 1, really good Bake. Year 2, not so good Bake. They had a new offensive coordinator or they had a new head coach. Freddie Kitchens came in, empowered and emboldened, Baker Mayfield and turned him into an asshole. Right now, all of a sudden, he's the captain, and he's telling veterans who've been there 10 times as long as he's been there what to do and what they shouldn't do. And everybody's looking at Baker like, bro, you need to chill. And his performance was not good. They got rid of Freddie Kitchens. They bring in their current head coach. And year one, they go to the playoffs. They beat the Steelers, win a playoff, almost upset the Chiefs, right? Their head coach wins coach of the year. Everything's going great. And then the next year, Bake's dealing with injuries, and he stinks it up, and they move on from him, right? And last year was not cool in Carolina. And then with the Rams, you saw a little flash on that Thursday night against the Raiders, but it was, helter-skelter. He could be in another good situation here with the Bucs. We'll see. He may get a new lease on life, but I thought he played well against the Ravens backups. Dolphins at Jags. So both teams played their starters in this game. Tua and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and that cast of characters all played for the Dolphins. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence and all those guys played for the Jacksonville Jaguars on the other end. And it was solid back and forth. I thought Trevor Lawrence and company looked really good. They had a fumble going in for a touchdown. Their rookie running back, Tank Bigsby out of Auburn, I think he fumbled the football, and that derailed one of their drives that looked like it was going in for a touchdown. Meanwhile, on the other end, Tua, did some good things, got Tyreek Hill the ball early on a big explosive play. I'm trying to think, did they score with Tua in the game, a touchdown? I think they might have kicked a field goal with Tua, and that might have been the best that they got. I don't think they scored a touchdown with him in the lineup. No, they didn't. They kicked a field goal, and that was it. They didn't really need to see too much out of their offense. They got him out of there after that. Meanwhile, Jacksonville put their starters back on the field, and they moved the football with efficiency. You got to see Calvin Ridley for the first time in a Jags uniform. He caught a pass. You got to see they really utilized the tight ends, particularly my guy Luke Farrell out of Ohio State was involved a couple of times on some boots and things of that nature. Zay Jones caught a pass. Travis Etienne was very active. The run game was very active. And Lawrence showed his athleticism. So the Jags look legit. I'll say that. They look like they're going to follow up what they did. Like last year wasn't a fluke is essentially what I'm trying to convey to you. Now, Tennessee might be right back nipping at their heels. I think Tennessee's dead personally, but I'll never doubt a Mike Vrabel coach team. So Tennessee could be right back nipping at their heels. I don't think they're going to fold under that pressure, though. I think they're going to be good for a while now. They got the coach. They got the quarterback. They got pieces. I think they're going to be a really quality football team as long as they're healthy. And then finally, the last game, this was the only game on Sunday, Texans at Saints to cap off the preseason for 2023. The Texans win the game 17-13. The highlight of this game, C.J. Stroud on his lone possession of the game took the Texans right down the field, capped it off with a touchdown toss to Nico Collins. It's a beautiful drive. I thought he looked poised. No, so I lied. I think he only had one drive. I know there was one play though, and I was going to say this earlier, and I said, "Oh, I'm not talking about the Texans right now." C.J. Stroud. There was a play, and this is the thing that is so infuriating. If you're an Ohio State Buckeyes fan and you watched them for years, and if you're a Texans fan, you're probably gonna have to deal with this at times. There are times where C.J. Stroud just refuses to run for whatever reason, because clearly he's athletic enough to do it. We've seen it this preseason. We saw it against Georgia in the playoff game. We know he's capable. And for whatever reason, he just won't do it. And there's a great example of that. And this is a teaching tool. If they're in the film room, they have to show him this and say, CJ, unless a guy is wide ass open and you're definitely going to exceed a 15, 20-yard gain with the pass, the safest thing for you to do here is to just run it. He could have run for 15 yards and gotten out of bounds. No one would have touched him. It was that much space. He had eluded the rush, stepped up in the pocket, avoided a rusher, and now he's running parallel with the line of scrimmage. And all he has to do at this point is just take off. And if he does it, he's going to get a first down, and he's probably going to be able to slide or get out of bounds unscathed. And instead, he's running parallel with the line of scrimmage, and he tries to force it in there to a receiver. It's incomplete. And you're like, bro, just run. What are we doing here? Don't overthink this. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. And you saw him do that at Ohio State. Times where he could have run, where he refused to run. And so that's something that I think over time he'll get better with decision-making in terms of when to tuck it and run, when to try to make something happen with his arm. But all in all, it was a beautiful drive. Took him right down the field, and I thought there was one pass on the sidelines. It's gorgeous. Tank Dell had a great return on punts. God, I wish we would have drafted him. You would have killed two birds with one stone. He runs to the right, stops, puts the brakes on, come back up the sideline to the left side, and there was nobody there. And he had a big return to set up a scoring opportunity for the Texans. So I thought the Texans, I think C.J. Stroud might have been on the field twice. I think the opening possession, they didn't score. But after that punt return from Tank Dell, I think he got back on the field and they went right down and they scored the touchdown. I think. I could be wrong, but whatever the case may be, it might have been one and done for him. Right down the field, scored a touchdown, they done. But Jameis Winston was out there for the Saints. I took a look at what he was doing, and he looks good, and he's performing well. But at the end of the day, I thought C.J. Stroud and both Bryce Young looked the part, and I saw the growth and maturation each week in the preseason, and that's what you want to see. And so I'm excited about both of them week one and seeing what they're going to do. The Ravens, if you're in Baltimore with that offense and it's being brand new and not necessarily knowing how the hell it's going to work and not getting a ton of work in the preseason, no work actually, just only joint practices, I tell you to watch out for the Texans in week one. They're going to play some good defense. They're going to fly around. They're not going to make things easy on the Ravens. And I expect them to confuse C.J. Stroud a little bit, make life miserable for him. And that's ultimately what I think is going to allow them to win that game. But they're going to struggle. I don't expect that to be an ass-kicking. I think that's going to be a really intriguing game in week number one, to say the least. But anyway, I digress. That's week 3 of the preseason in a nutshell. I got a few comments here, so I'll take those, and we'll get out of here. Abner Durant, stand up. You know what it is. We in the building. Been a member for 24 months. 2 years. Got to bow to you for that. My guy, Ab, thank you for being a member for that long who writes. But first of all, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. As I just mentioned, my guy, Ab, writes, besides the expected with Howe, I think Forrest could have a breakout this season. Hope Young also has his much needed great season. Forrest, I think, has a chance to be special. You know, last year, I think a lot of people forget, last year he was still learning, and that was his first real game experience. So while he was making plays, he was still figuring shit out. Now he's more comfortable. I think he could be a real problem on the back end, and we know he's got the speed to go sideline to sideline, red line to red line. So I like him back there. Now it's just about him taking that potential and turning it into real ability and play on the field. As far as Young is concerned, I don't know, man. I'm looking at Chase Young, and I think he's got a big year ahead of him. The more and more I watch him work, and the more and more I see the similarities between him working out, coming out of Ohio State and working out this year, I see that fire back. I see a guy that's on a mission because he knows what's at stake. So he looks locked in, man. I'll say that. He looks locked in, and I think he's poised for a big season. I do. He's just got to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. Health is going to be the key for him. If he's healthy, if he's out there, I think he's going to be a problem. He had a hell of a rush against a really good tackle in Jedrick Wills in week 1 of the preseason, went right by him, took his arm, moved that shit out of the way. I haven't seen Chase use it. Now, again, he fooled me 2 years ago in the preseason with hand usage, but he went back to Ohio State, in particular this offseason, and worked with Larry Johnson on hand usage. So I actually think this is something that can carry over to the regular season, but I've been fooled before, so he's going to have to show me. My guy, Abner Duran, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Arizona just cut our man McCoy. This is looking more and more like tanking and a perfect opportunity for a 40-plus burger. I'm trying to have all kinds of juices dripping down my forearm in week 1. If we don't destroy these boys, like, we're supposed to be having fun. And somebody was like, yo, pump your brakes and drive slow. I think it was my band KP Flex. Hit me up on Twitter, it was, or X, and was like, yo, pump your brakes and drive slow, Louie. And I'm like, while I hear you, bro, let's not fall back into our, entrapped mindset when we had the dark cloud over our head of Daniel Snyder. Anything is possible now that we are the new management, right? I'm looking at the Cardinals like food week 1. And if we don't eat and eat good, we have a problem on our hands. And, in past years, we'd struggle with them, but win the game, but we'd sweat it out. I'm not looking to sweat out a damn thing. And I'm not afraid to say it. So many people want me to be, I told y'all don't want to see me when we good. Because it ain't a modest bone in my body. If we good, I'm letting everybody know. And it's a lot of pent up energy inside of me from years of being ass to where if we good, oh man, it's on. So I'm not looking to be humble right now. Leave that for somebody else. I'm looking to take Arizona's dick and put it in the dirt. I'm talking about 37-13 week 1. I'd love a 40 burger. I'm not demanding it. Just keep them down. They shouldn't see 20-0 in this game. I'm talking 36-16. I'm talking 38-13. That's the kind of ass whooping I'm trying to administer in week 1. And can't nobody get me to pipe down on nothing. Bust their head open to the damn white meat show in week 1. They cut Colt McCoy. They think Clayton Tune or getting Joshua Dobbs and schooling them up for 3 weeks is a better option. Bust their head to the white meat show. We better not struggle with their ass. That's all I know. They having a damn yard sale over there. We better bust their head open. Wide open in week 1. Red Ball Manders, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, AR-15 could be like Vince Young in 06. You think? He could be. Vince in 06 was very exciting. That first year, remember Vince scored the touchdown against Houston in overtime, threw the ball against the wall for the game winner, right? And that was his way of sticking it to the Texans because they didn't draft him, right? So, I don't know, man. I don't know. He's got a lot of traits. But I think his work ethic is going to be a lot better. Vince Young never had the work ethic. Remember Let Kerr had? Remember that? He ain't care enough. He was always more talented than most of the guys playing around him. So he could get by on that. When you get to the NFL, everybody's talented. You're not at Texas no more. Now you got to put in work. The same thing we saw with Johnny Manziel, right? Johnny Football. You watch his Untold. Johnny was, more talented than most guys around him and could make things happen backyard style. He wasn't studying. Got to the NFL, everybody's an athlete now. That shit you was doing at Texas A&M, that shit don't work now. Now you actually got to study. Now you actually got to learn NFL defenses, and he wasn't willing to put in the work. I think Anthony Richardson is different in that regard. I think he's willing to put in the work. It's just, can he be consistent? I don't know, in terms of accuracy and things of that nature. That's what we're going to find out. But Vince Young in 06 was very exciting. So I can see AR-15 being that as well. Absolutely. JP, my guy, John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JP writes, would you like to see Washington? What would you like to see Washington do at running back in 2024? Keep Gibson, let him walk, give B-Rob the workload, or go after Austin Eckler in free agency? Well, I'm good on Austin Eckler in free agency. I'm not looking to add a 28-year-old back in free agency. So I'm good on him. I can't tell you what I want to do with Gibson yet because I need to see his role defined. Like, what is he? Because it looks like they're going to use him in much more of a receiving role this year. Not as many carries out of the backfield, but more so as a guy that they split out wide, use as a receiver out of the backfield, but not necessarily giving him a ton of touches. He'll get his fair share of touches as a runner, but as we've seen since his rookie season, his touches as a runner has decreased every year, and I think they may decrease even more, and he didn't even get a ton last year. So I want to see what they do with him first before I can make a determination on whether they should have him back or not. But regardless of what, you could see them, and I shouldn't say that, because if they bring back Antonio Gibson, then you're probably not looking to spend any draft capital at the position, because you've drafted a running back 2 years in a row now. B-Rob 2 years ago, or last year rather, and then this year Chris Rodriguez. So I don't know if they'll be drafting another running back. You move on from Gibson, and maybe you do draft another running back. So we'll see. Hard to say. I got to see what Gibson looks like for Washington before I decide on whether he should be back or not. All right, so that was the last comment. If you guys are out there and you want your comments read, use the hashtag LouieTLive. I'll give y'all about 5 minutes to load those up. If you got anything you want to say, if you want to jump straight to the front of the line, Super Chat's the other way to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and glide to the side and let you guys get back to whatever it was you were doing before I rudely interrupted your evening. So if you're out there, you have a comment that you want read, by all means, please use the hashtag LouieTLive. I'll take as many of those as I can in the next 5 to 10 minutes before we split. If there aren't any of those, then I'm just going to go ahead and get out of your hair. Also, if you want to jump to the front of the line to ensure your comment is read, Super Chats are the way to do that. Again, I'll be putting out a bunch of posts on social media tomorrow. I'll be reminding you all over the place, but I'm going to remind you right here while I got you. My weekly schedule this week is jam-packed as we are heading into September. We're turning the calendar, and that means a lot because it means football is on the horizon. So with that said, tomorrow night, 53-man rosters are crystallized. We'll know who the 53 guys are who are on the roster, obviously subject to change with some of the movement with players getting cut, things of that nature. We'll also know who the 16 guys are on the practice squad. So we'll be discussing that tomorrow night at 9 o'clock p with Rio and Ed Oliver here on my channel. So hopefully you'll be able to tune in for that. That's Tuesday night. Wednesday night, NFC East Super Friends unite for the final time before the start of the regular season. Will be in full splendor, in all of their splendor, I should say. Wednesday night, August 30th at 8 o'clock p on the NFC East Super Friends YouTube channel. The link is in the description of this video. Click that link. Go over there. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Turn on your notification bell. That show rather, starts at 8. You can't get it anywhere else on YouTube, so make sure you sub up that channel. And then Thursday, we're going to have a toast to the end of August, into September, the start of the regular season. I'm toasting to what I think is going to be a hell of a season. So we'll be live 9:30 p on Thursday night, toasting to the season. I've got a number of things to say, and you'll know my predictions for the Commanders. I'll go over that in greater detail, and we'll chop it up on Thursday night. And really, this will be the calm before the storm. I'm celebrating in advance because I'm expecting big things from the squad this year. That's just me. You don't have to do what I do, but I'm just telling you where I'm at with mine. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section real quick and see what you guys have to say, if anything. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. JP writes, do you think joint practices are garbage or are they necessary? I think joint practices definitely help. I told you there's a place for joint practices because, one, you're not playing against your own players. You're not seeing the same, like Terry talked about the difference between going up against a Marlon Humphrey versus a Kendall Fuller or an Emmanuel Forbes. And so it changes what you've been seeing all camp. You get used to going up against certain guys, so it gives you a different look and a different perspective, which is, definitely needed. It gives your defense a different look. It gives your offense a different look. You get to work on specific, and I think this is the biggest benefit, is you get to work on specific aspects of the game in a setting that still replicates actual football, right? So you can replicate 2-minute drive in practice with your own defense, but it's even better when you're doing it against somebody else's defense who doesn't give a shit about your team, right? You can replicate goal line offense with your team, but it's better when you do it against another team who is looking to tear your head off, right? You can replicate, your third down packages or 2-point conversions. You can replicate a number of different things in a practice setting against another team. I think these things are all valuable, right? Situations that may come up situationally, you can get a lot done in a joint practice, whereas missing out on those aspects without joint practices can stunt the growth of your football team. But I let this be known, and I've said this all preseason long, all offseason, there's no replacing actual playing in games, right? You can try to replicate a 2-minute situation all you want, but there's no replicating it quite like actually having it happen in a game. So in the grand scheme of things, I think joint practices falls somewhere right under actual games. An actual preseason game experience where your quarterback can actually be hit is number one on the list for me. Number two is joint practices. Some coaches will tell you it's 1A, 1B, preseason games and joint practices. They're one and the same to them. I don't concur, but I think they are something that you can definitely benefit from, for sure. JP, double up, that was for the last one. I apologize for not doubling you up. But my guy JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. John Perez writes, I'm also officially going to Washington at Philly week 4 with my buddy. Wish me luck, LOL. You going into the dungeon, buddy. You're going into the dungeon. All right. You said you a big dude, so I don't worry about you. You told me you can handle yourself, so I'm not even going to give you the speech. Hold it down, JP. And you know what it is. When we get there, you know what I'm going to tell you. I don't have to tell you right now. It's not necessary. But as we approach, you already know what I'm going to tell you. All right. Just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. Let's see. Antoine Hoskins writes, hey, Lou, I've been watching your channel for a while now, and I have been wondering how often you will be going live with the Super Friends this season. So we are going to do a stream more often than we have in the past. I'm still discussing with the fellas how often we will be going live, but don't worry. I'm hard at work making sure I get everybody on the same page and we're on one accord and we're going to figure this thing out. So what I can assure you of, and you can take this to the bank, there will be regularity with it. It won't be as random where you guys are wondering when the next one's going to be. You'll know. There'll be a schedule and you'll be able to kind of set your schedule to know, and you should be expecting them versus asking us and having to guess and wonder when the next one is. So what I'm telling you is we're about to get on a schedule. All right. Now I just got to get these fellas. They're all busy. I just got to get them all to sit down for more than 2 seconds at a time so we can discuss and kind of iron out some details. But we started that channel because we're going to come together and we're going to give you guys consistency, or else we wouldn't have started the channel. So trust and believe, if nothing else, you can take this one to the bank. This check won't bounce. We're going to be, meeting with more regularity, something that you guys can set your schedule to. Got another super chat from my guy, JP. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, John Perez writes, I put 10 down on Chase Young winning comeback player of the year. If I win, I get a payout of $510. It's a good $10 investment, bro. It really, truly is, because I think he has a chance to really tear some shit up this year. I think that's a hell of an investment. Hell, I might need to do that my damn self. I mean, $10 ain't going to kill you. And it damn sure is worth, a $510 payout on the back end if you win. If you lose $10. So what, right? That's a good one, JP. Abner Duran, my guy, Ab, double up, thank you for doubling up. I think you already doubled up. This is more like a triple for you. But my guy, Ab, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, I'm attending this new era first game and hope to see a massacre in the flesh. Absolutely, Ab. You should be treated to an absolute bloodbath in week 1. I mean, they are going to be out for blood in week 1, other fans, and they should get it. This is the perfect opponent. Like, they couldn't have handpicked a better opponent for week 1. Now, we could be overconfident. We could come in there and get our heads, bashed in from being overconfident. I just don't see that happening. This is a different team. It's a different day. And I just think we're going to be ready for the Arizona Cardinals. And Sam's going to look to make a statement. Like, this is a statement game. After this, everybody's going to be looking at Washington saying, oh, shit, look out for the Commanders. And then we're going to have to do it again. And then we're going to have to do it again, right? But after week 1, you're going to hear some people singing a different tune, just like you saw it when we beat the Ravens and Sam looked good and the offense looked good in the second preseason game. I think you're going to hear a lot of that after we destroy the Cardinals, 41-16 or something like that. But again, got to go out and do it first. I'm trying to make sure that this ain't even competitive in the second half. Like, I'm trying to score on our first 5 possessions and 4 of them are touchdowns. That's the kind of shit. That's the type of time I'm trying to be on in week 1. Maybe I should respect their defense a little bit more than I'm respecting it. But I damn sure don't respect their offense. And if they come in here and they bless us on offense, then we got a problem defensively. He says, planning also to go to Boston and LA as well, but things with my girl are getting serious, so I don't know. Hey, make sure you take care of home first, Ab. Make sure you take care of home first. Priorities might change. I hear that. I feel that. All right. Absolutely. You got to take care of what's important. Make sure you prioritize things the right way. Sounds like you got your head on your shoulders and you got it figured out. I don't need to give you a speech there, but sounds good to me. All right. Sounds good to me. Thank you for the super chat, as always. Ab, I'm looking forward to that post with you with the flag on your back. I'm looking forward to it. My nice little photo that I always get. I'll be looking forward to that. All right, let's see. I bleed blue. I bleed Giants blue. I bleed Giants blue, right? My bad if you already talked about this, but what do you think of Ron saying he wished he knew how good Sam was earlier in the season? You know what? I'm a big proponent of everything happens for a reason. I really, truly believe that had he played Sam last year, we wouldn't be as high on him right now because he would have made mistakes. And they would have been in a position where they saw him struggle enough to where they may not have wanted him back as their starter this year. I think everything happened the way that it was supposed to last year. He didn't play until week 18. We got a little taste. It was good enough for them to feel really good about him. And now, because he sat for a year, he learned. I really, truly believe, and I know this is a little far-fetched, but he's going to be like Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not telling you he's Mahomes because there's only one of those. But what I'm telling you is Patrick Mahomes sat his entire rookie season, played in the last game, week 17, at Denver, led them on a comeback drive to win that game. And they went to the playoffs. Alex Smith lost. The next year, they made Patrick Mahomes the starter. He took off 5 straight AFC championship games later. The rest is history. I'm not telling you that's what's going to happen with Sam, but I'm just telling you the similarities are eerie. And I'm also telling you that that year sitting behind a couple of veterans, learning, really seeing how the NFL works, I think it prepared Sam. You want to know why he's so cool, calm, and collected, so poised, why he looks so comfortable? Because he saw a lot last year. And so now he's a lot more prepared. So I think Ron saying that because he's continuing to build the confidence of Sam Howell and continuing to show everybody how much he believes in him and how much growth he's seen from him. But if Ron really, truly, thought he was good enough, he was so busy trying to prove to everybody that he didn't make a mistake with Carson Wentz. He was too blind to pay attention to what Sam Howell was or wasn't doing. There was no way he was going to be able to see that last year. He was blinded by Carson Wentz. So that's cool for him to say that now, but let's keep it a buck. He was more interested in proving that all that tape he watched on Carson Wentz at the combine and how he orchestrated this trade, not Mr. Snyder. He was hell-bent on proving he was right. Instead of proving that, hey, man, this 5th-round pick that we just stole in that New Orleans Saints trade, like, this dude is legit. We should get him out there. He was less on that. He wouldn't have remember, he wasn't going to start Sam in week 18. Taylor Heineke said, bro, nah. Start the young kid, man. I'm out. What y'all need to play me for? You didn't trust me enough to play me in week 17 versus Cleveland with the playoffs on the line. Don't try to put me back in the game now. Play Sam. He wasn't even going to do that on his own. So, come on now. Y'all know Sam. I mean, y'all know Ron ain't. Ron wasn't here with it. We know that. All right. JP writes, do you have a ceiling or floor for Sam Howell? My ceiling for him is Matt Stafford. Dude just gives me Stafford vibes. I mean, because he can throw it sidearm a little bit. I don't know. I'm gonna try not to put any expectations on him. I just want to see him go out and ball and be the best version of himself and see where that takes us. I'm not looking to put any limitations on him, ceiling, floor, none of that. Just go out and ball, man. Rumble, young man, rumble. That's all I'm looking for him to do, honestly. Abel Ambrosio, my guy Double A, writes, another cut is Milo Eifler. Milo Eifler. Do you see Commanders going after Christian Kirksey? I don't know. I don't know if they feel like they need to do it, but who had him making the team? I didn't. I thought he would be on the practice squad. Them cutting him today may signify the end of this bromance that Ron and Milo Eifler have had for the last 3 years, where this guy somehow, some ways ended up on the practice squad and eventually the roster on game days. So that might signify the end of that bromance. But I had him on the practice squad. But I told you there was a margin of error of 2 players on the practice squad. I really think they like the safety out of where did Quan Martin come from? Syracuse. I think they like that safety number 40. I can't remember his name. But I wouldn't be shocked if he makes it. And, you know, I saw Braden Daniels. Look, didn't I tell y'all they was going to find Braden Daniels was not making his team. And they're not going to expose him. What I tell y'all? Braden Daniels won't go. He's not supposed to be on this damn team. Oh, he got a rotator cuff injury, huh? Interesting. Right when you was about to cut him, he had a rotator cuff injury. I bet he does. Anyway, whatever you got to tell yourself. I just know how this shit works. His ass won't make the team. We joked about, you know, anybody who, hey, if you started coughing and you look, hey, he got bronchitis, he out for the season, IR. We joked about that the other day, right? Here's an example of it right here in the flesh. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. John Perez writes, do you like A. Rich on the Colts as an offensive rookie of the year candidate? Nah, not over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. And hell, there could even be some other skill position players that play really well on the offensive side of the football that we're not even thinking about, who may have some big roles with their teams in their rookie seasons. It's going to be one of these quarterbacks. You don't get 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round and all of them start week 1 and one of them not win rookie of the year. Somebody's going to win rookie of the year at quarterback. It's going to be one of those 3 dudes. My money's on Bryce Young out of the 3. But don't sleep on CJ Stroud. I don't think Anthony Richardson now. I will say of all those teams he plays in the worst division, he could do some damage, but I just think their roster has a ways to go. I think he has a ways to go in his development, and I just think the mistakes that he'll make in his rookie season will bring down any case he'll have for rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. But he'll be in the mix a little bit, but he won't be better than CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, I don't think. HHC Lunar says, not NFL, but what do you think Notre Dame will do this year? I'm going to talk about that on the podcast tomorrow. You know, I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. Of course, I watched the game versus Navy over the weekend. I have a lot to say about that on Tuesday on the podcast. So anyway, I digress. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. That was a lot of fun. And I'm kind of getting back into the flow of things. You know, off season is usually heavy on the Commanders content, but now everybody is back in the game and the NFL is back like cook crack. I'll be releasing my Jets episodes 2 and 3 recaps here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. So be on the lookout for that. Episode 4 will be tomorrow. obviously. So I'll be trying to get my eyes on that. And so, again, the content is going to be ramping up here. So you can tell it's almost that time. It's almost that time. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Reedy Davis writes, Lou, I think Bryce Young don't do better than CJ. We'll see. I mean, that's why I included CJ in that conversation. I actually like the talent that CJ has around him more than Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. So I think he's in a better situation from a talent perspective. You're talking Tank Dell, the kid from Michigan, he threw the touchdown pass to Dalton Schultz, who they added on a one-year deal. I just think they got some stuff out there, man. So I could easily see him, making some noise this year. They got a young running back that was really good for them last year, rushed for over 900 yards as a rookie. If they can protect up front, he's going to make his fair share of mistakes, but he's also going to have an opportunity to make some plays. So we'll see what happens. I just think Bryce is just a lot more composed than the other two. That's my sense of it. So, Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Fat American writes, Lou, I was doing a roster prediction, and I got to tell you, this probably was the most difficult it's been in years. Really tough decisions here to be made. And that's the point. That's what you want, right? That's when you and Ron answered that at the end of the game. He talked about this roster and the growth that they've seen and how tough things have become because of, the depth that they now have and some of these decisions on the back end, I always talk about the final 5 to 8 roster spots. And Ron said 6 or 7. That's when it gets tough. That's when you've built a good football team. We still got a ways to go. We're not done. We can fortify this thing and strengthen it even more, especially on the back end at the cornerback position. I think there leaves a little bit there to be desired. But at the end of the day, this is by far and away the best roster we've had in quite some time. I don't think that's up for debate. This is the most offensive firepower we've had probably since 2016. This is the best defensive unit that we've put on the field probably since maybe 07, maybe, right? Like you got to go all the way back to Greg Williams and Gibbs 2.0, whether it's 04, 05, or 07. We haven't put this quality of a defense on the field in a long time, over a decade. And we haven't put this kind of offensive firepower on the field in 7 years. So that's the kind of roster we've constructed. Now it's about going out and executing. Talk is cheap. Paper doesn't win you anything. We ain't looking to be paper champions. We're looking to bust somebody's head and be NFC East champions and then go from there. So week 1, Arizona Cardinals first up on the hit list. And I'm looking to scratch off as many names as we can. So I like what the roster, has. The roster has instilled confidence in me. I wouldn't be this confident if we had a garbage roster. I don't give a shit if Dan Snyder's the owner or not. You got a garbage roster, I'm not sitting here talking cold hard cash with you about this squad. So, Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Fat American, who writes, especially at wide receiver. But Kaz messed up, bro. So mad. And I still think he's going to make the roster. I just put out a video. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I explain why. Go check that video out. But I still think Kaz Allen's going to make the football team. I could be wrong. And if he's not on the 53 man, he'll be on the practice squad. But I think he's going to make the squad. I feel like I got a good handle on Ron and the way he thinks and how he's wired. Like, I've been studying Ron for 4 years now. I feel really good about Ron. I think I'm inside his head at this point. I could be wrong. And I could just be overthinking it, over-interpreting what he said, and doing too much with it. But I think I know Ron, his mannerisms, how he speaks, and when he says things, and how to translate it. I think I've gotten in that bag now. So we'll see. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, Jack got a type of DB, physical. Them boys hit. Like Sip, for example. Boy ain't scared. He hitting boys. So that's cool. Can you cover boys, though? Can you cover dudes is what I care about. Hitting is cool. I know you like to go throwback 2005, all that, when the NFL would allow you to take somebody's head off. Those days are gone. Sip is cool, but can Sip cover somebody? Can he stop somebody from catching the ball? That's what I care about most. Not that he's going to come up and hit somebody after they catch the damn ball, right? He's not a safety. He's a corner, which means he's supposed to stop them from catching the ball. I don't know if he's all that good at that. But look, everybody on the defense got to be able to hit and tackle. And for the first time in a long time, I don't think there's a weakness on the defense in that capacity, because usually there's one dude you can point to and say, hey, we can run it at him. William Jackson III, we can run it at him. He don't want no smoke. Can't do that with Forbes out there now. So I feel good about the back end, man. These dudes will hit you. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Reedy, who writes, Lou, D got to make a statement in week 1 and must carry us. I'm not saying they must carry us in that game. They need to dominate in that game, though. Like, let's say the offense starts off slow. The defense should be carrying us, and Cardinals shouldn't have scored anything, and they might have picked somebody off and set up some field position to jumpstart the offense, whatever. I hope the offense comes out like they did last year against Jacksonville week 1, where they got the shit clicking on all cylinders, and except this time there ain't a Curtis Samuel fumble or any kind of turnover to turn the tide in the game. I just hope they come out guns a-blazing and get in the end zone. Meanwhile, the defense, if you remember last year, the defense was struggling at the beginning of the game. Jacksonville was moving that bitch. They just kept having catastrophes at the end of their drives, whether it's Trevor Lawrence missing a wide open Travis Etienne for a touchdown, them having to settle for a field goal one time, and then them missing a field goal one time. So they had their opportunities, and they blew it. He missed a wide open Travis Etienne twice, once on a corner, I think it was a corner route. It might have been a wheel route up the sideline. Jamin Davis beat by like 6 yards, overthrew that, and then of course he had him on the 4th down. All he do was just throw a lollipop, and he did, and he dropped it. Rather, he should have caught it and walked in the end zone. So defense wasn't great. We just caught breaks. I'm looking for them to be great and dominate in this game. Absolutely. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, but his coverage though, LOL, should move him to safety. They should. He's more of a safety. And again, you can't just take a corner and move him to safety. He's got to have the instincts for the position and all of that good stuff. But he's better suited as a safety. I can tell you that much. I don't think I think he can play corner. You just got to have a specific scheme for his skill set. I think he could be a cover 2 corner. I don't know if you want him as a cover 3 corner unless you trust him to stay on top of a guy, because he don't have no makeup speed. So if he squat on something and he get beat, he don't have the speed to make up that difference and get back into play. So I think he probably is better suited as a safety, but I don't think they're looking at him in that regard right now. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Twin D, writes, I'm hoping that Kaz turns out to be that story where he ends up balling out and we look back and remember how he almost didn't make the team. I think that's what's going to happen. And Ron, I talked about that in the video. Go watch the video. I don't want to say too much, but we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Whether he makes it or not, we're going to talk about Kaz Allen regardless. Whether he's on the 53-man roster or he just misses out, we're going to talk about him. So, and I'll expound upon that more tomorrow night with Rio and Ed. But I got a feeling that I listened to him talk after the game, and you could tell he was not happy with himself, but he wasn't like, he didn't look at that as a death blow. Like, he didn't say to himself, I effed up. He just like, look, I did what I did. I think I've shown enough, because he had a good kick return that night too, right? That 30-yarder. That shit was explosive. It was one jump cut in the hole and then an explosion. I'm like, okay, that's a nice little, that doesn't make up for the 2 drops and the muff punt, but it at least lets them know. It was just a little brief reminder. Hey, don't y'all cut me. You remember on Any Given Sunday when Shart LeVay gets hurt and they put him on the stretcher? And remember, he was out there only because he was taking those drugs, those shots to be out there. He wasn't supposed to be out there, but he was trying to get that extra $1 million bonus and he needed like 3 or 4 more tackles or whatever. And he got hurt. And as they're stretching him off the field, he's like, hey, don't y'all drop me. I'm worth $1 million. Cash out is like, don't y'all cut me. I'm worth a big ass return, man. So he gave us a little reminder. We'll see if it, means anything to the staff and if he's done enough to warrant a roster spot. I think there's enough. Like, we're not as tight on the back end to the point where that F-up might have cost him. I think he can still whittle his way onto the roster. And I feel even better now that Braden Daniels is out of the equation, now that Ron and company saved themselves. And look, they were smart about it. They put him on IR. They didn't want to cut him and expose it. They didn't want to cut a 4th-round pick. You know how embarrassing that is to cut a 4th-rounder? They knew damn well he wasn't making the team. So what did they do? Hey, man, rotator cuff injury, IR. Damn shame, too. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying that he didn't injure his rotator cuff either. I don't want to. I'm not trying to perpetuate that they're lying. I'm just telling you, he could have had a hangnail. All right, he could have had a jammed toe. Anything, right? He could have had a paper cut on his left pinky. He was going to IR, regardless. Anyway. I digress. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American says the offense looks sharp, even the third team. That's because there's a lot of talent on that side of the football. Like you mentioned earlier, receiver in particular, super talented. All the way down to Bryson Tremaine. This group can play. This group can play. So we're good. That's why I said I want Terry back ASAP. I don't want to see my Commanders' offense on the field without its leader in Terry McLaurin at the receiver position. But if we have to survive without Terry, the reason I'm confident we can do that is because I look at the receiver position and I'm like, man, we deep as a bitch. We still got a lot of shit. You take Terry out of the mix for a week and you still got Jahan, Curtis, and Diami you got to deal with. Sprinkle in a little Dax Mill. And if I need to bring up Mitchell Tinsley or somebody like that, I can off the practice squad. We straight. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all tomorrow night. Man, 53-man roster. I really think I got a chance to be within 2 on the roster, like 51 out of 53. I've never been that close. The best I've ever done was 50 out of 53. I think I got a chance to go 51 out of 53 this time. If not 53 out of 53, I'm feeling dangerous. I woke up feeling dangerous. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, this O-line starting to establish a nasty identity. I told you we got nasty boys up front. Now it's just a question of cohesion. Can they fuse together fast enough to provide the kind of offensive line play that we need in order for this offense to maximize its potential? But they always been nasty. Nick Gates been nasty from day one. Andrew Wiley on the low is real nasty with it. And Sam Cosmi been slapping hoes. He been dumping dudes on their necks. So I'm gonna tell you right now, it's all about Sadiq Charles and Cornelius Lucas on that. Not Cornelius Lucas. Charles Leno Jr. on that left side. That's what I'm more concerned about. They hold it down, we're gonna be just fine. I think that center to the right side is gonna be fine. Wiley, we got to watch him. They got a plan for him. They're gonna chip. They're going to make sure that he's got help over there. They're going to leave him on the island because they didn't do that in Kansas City. I think we'll be fine. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Brooks, Stromberg, and Gates in particular, dogs. Brooks is going to be on this practice squad. Stromberg going to be on this roster. And Gates, I love Gates. And Giants fans told me I was going to love him. And they didn't lie to me. So everything that we've gotten from those dudes, specifically Gates in particular, fully expected it. Fully expected it. Anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and we will reconvene tomorrow night. Until then, you guys take care. Have a good one. God bless, and good night.